General for Maritime Affairs and Fishery, as well as to the European Fishery Control Agency, the European Maritime Safety Agency, and the European Border and Coast Guard Agency for their invaluable support in holding, which is being held in presence after more than 3 years of interruption due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The last annual conference being held jointly by France 2018 and Morocco in 2019. I express my sincere thanks to the local authorities and to the Minister of Sustainable Infrastructure and Mobility who believed in this initiative and spared no effort to ensure that it was held in Italy, in the beautiful city of Naples, which, thanks to its port and its long history in the shipping, has developed a multicultural experience and the well-known ability to relate to other peoples and culture in the Mediterranean Sea. The 2022 edition of the Med Forum is attended by 90 representatives of 16 Mediterranean countries, 16 international or regional organizations, and 32 extra-Mediterranean countries. The success of participation testifies to the vitality of a formula that was chosen 13 years ago to start a framework for dialogue and cooperation on Coast Guard function in the Mediterranean Sea, and which has since joined other initiatives developed in different regional contexts. European Coast Guard Function Forum, North Atlantic Coast Guard Forum, North Pacific Coast Guard Forum, Arctic Coast Guard Forum, Black Sea Littoral State Border Coast Guard Agency Cooperation Forum, and Coast Guard Global Summit. On 6 and 7 May 2009, the Italian Coast Guard hosted in Genoa the first Mediterranean Coast Guard Forum, attended by 23 Mediterranean countries, 27 extra-Mediterranean observer countries, EU institutions and agencies, and international organizations. For the first time, as a result of a far-sighted and ingenious idea of the Italian Coast Guard Commandant, Vice Admiral Raimondo Pollastrini, a common event created a cooperation instrument essential for the Mediterranean Sea and generated a lot of interest, as well as a proposed regional maritime partnership between European, North Africa, and Middle East countries. In light of the positive outcome, Med Forum, originally conceived as a single event, aimed at strengthening sectoral cooperation between the three sides of the Mediterranean area, aimed to become an informal organization, regularly bringing together representatives from Mediterranean Coast Guard services and maritime administration to facilitate multilateral cooperation on a wide range of issues. Future perspective of Med Forum were the creation of a hosting environment aimed at building a basis for the exchange of experiences related to the protection of maritime transport, restraining the transport of people and goods in the most efficient and secure way, without endangering both maritime safety and security, as well as the protection of marine environment, fostering the use of new technologies in the field of interest, stimulating the uniform implementation of international law within the framework of existing bilateral or regional cooperation system. As the Italian Coast Guard project leader of the first edition of Med Forum in 2009, I witnessed with pride and satisfaction a significant growth in the following 13 years of the initiative. Was subsequent edition marked an evolution towards a less formal and more substantial platform for discussion. Nonetheless, the time has come for a leap forward that will take the Med Forum one step further towards closer cooperation between Coast Guard services. Elevating technical and operational standards on use by Coast Guard services all over the Mediterranean Sea is the ultimate aim of the Med Forum. Bearing that in mind, the candidacy of a Mediterranean country is expected for the hosting of the next edition of the Med Forum, so as to allow this event to maintain its periodic performance, normally at least every 2 years, where we can share our ideas and impressions on the future development of the issue of interest, thus paving the way to a more pragmatic and practical approach for the uniform implementation of international rules. The Italian Coast Guard will provide every support to the next chairmanship of Med Forum, and I'm confident, as usual, the European Commission, as well as EFCA, EMSA, and Frontex, will be at the side of the country taking on this undoubtedly onerous but challenging and ambitious commitment. I therefore take the liberty of launching an appeal for the candidature of a country that hopefully in 2024 intends to organize the next edition of Med Forum, to whom I would ideally pass the baton. Although Mediterranean countries have taken significant steps toward improving their maritime cooperation during the post-Cold War period, serious maritime issues endanger the various states and their populations. At the same time, structural, economic, legal changes in the European, North African, and Middle East areas are broadening and operationalizing maritime cooperation. Despite these improvements, major obstacles remain. Although sovereignty sensitiveness have related slightly, states continue to be wary of even a small erosion of exclusive rights. Similarly, even if dialogue is becoming a behavioral norm, this trust remains high and threatens to this steamy effort to develop maritime cooperation that goes beyond discourse. Nonetheless, neither sovereignty issue nor distrust are absolute restraint on cooperation. Assume the strengthening of regional cooperation, the higher priority now given to maritime safety, safeguard of human life at sea and marine environment, and the resource available to Coast Guard services. The time is right to press for enhanced cooperation. Bilateral and multilateral efforts both have potential when states can identify interests, capitalize on opportunities, and ameliorate obstructions. For this reason, our organization should seek to network existing relationships, bearing in mind that while formal arrangements are more visible, informal arrangements are of utmost benefit for dialogue and cooperation. As a multi-mission administration, the Italian Coast Guard is uniquely positioned to engage our maritime partners in this area of common concern. We are building on the success of past edition of Med Forum as we work to improve mutually beneficial cooperation and coordination that will enhance maritime safety, security, and environmental protection throughout the Mediterranean Sea. Our achieved goal since the first Med Forum in 2009 has been to exchange information necessary to improve the security and safety of vessels at sea and of coastal nations. We have worked to identify ways to expand day-to-day cooperation between our organizations in operation, supporting fishery management, environmental protection, search and rescue, and maritime safety and security. Coast Guard services are growing presence in all areas of the Mediterranean Sea. The development of cooperative ways to assist Mediterranean countries with limited or no Coast Guard capability with education, training, and technical assistance efforts, as well as with previously mutually agreed operational activities in prevention, recovery or mitigation of natural and man-made maritime disasters, as well as in organizing and developing adequate Coast Guard services according to international standards should be expeditiously enhanced. The Italian Coast Guard has been a pioneer in exploring formal cooperation with Mediterranean countries, beginning with 2000 Ancona Adriatic Conference, in which important agreements were signed with the Adriatic Ionian countries, Albania, Croatia, Greece, Slovenia, on search and rescue, common vessel traffic service system, common routing system, and traffic separation schemes, mandatory naval reporting system. Since then, Italy signed agreement on search and rescue with Algeria and the marine pollution remorse with France and Monaco, and conduct operation activity on Coast Guard functions, and over on naval asset or training program with, among others, Coast Guard services and the Maritime Administration to the benefit of the Ukrainian Maritime Administration on advanced training on port state and flag state control and sea surface monitoring system. The Italian Coast Guard is currently participating in a EU call for proposal aimed at assigning a capacity building project to strengthen Lebanon port and maritime system. Moreover, the Italian Coast Guard hosts the Mediterranean IS regional exchange system and is a strategic partner to both SafeMed and Black and Caspian Sea project implemented by EMSA. As we would like to share experience and best practice on Coast Guard function, the Italian Coast Guard is available to Mediterranean Coast Guard services and maritime administration that need capacity building or training activities. We will take into due consideration any request within the framework of a EU or international program as part of our effort to increase maritime safety and security and to protect marine environment. In 2022, MedForum team, the new challenges in the Mediterranean Sea among blue economy, ecological transition and Coast Guard function involve relevant issues whose impact may have consequences that require an equally immediate response. When the keyword is challenges. The Coast Guard functions, which are still evolving as a result of a debate in progress within the framework of the MedForum as well as of the European Coast Guard function, are increasingly shifting the center of gravity of the prominent activities at sea. The strong desire we have to place the Italian Coast Guard not only in geographical center, but also on operational and analysis center of the Mediterranean Sea. In relation to the voluntary process underway, will allow us to draw fruitful lesson and further growth and modernization opportunity, which I'm confident will also arise from this annual conference of a MedForum. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for your keen attention, interest, and active participation to the MedForum that I am confident will lead to a successful outcome of the meeting. May I wish you all fair winds and following seas and formulate every positive auspice for the success of this initiative, aimed at further enhancing the safety of international maritime shipping within a framework of peace, stability, and economic prosperity for the Mediterranean communities. My sincere and warmest appreciation to the European Commission, DG Mare, today represented by Mr. Economo, and the sponsors, Fincantieri and Shipyard Victoria, will contribute for the realization of this very important event. It's now my pleasure to introduce the representative of local, national, and European institutions with their presence and welcome address honor the relevance of this event. First, Vice Admiral Aurelio De Carolis, Commander-in-Chief of the Italian Navy Fleet. Dr. Paolo Mancuso, Counselor for the Environment of Naples, representative of the Professor Gaetano Manfredi, Major of Naples. Mr. Christos Economo, Head of Unit of Directorate for Maritime Affairs and Fishery, European Commission, and Professor Enrico Giovannini, Minister of Sustainable Infrastructure and Mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Admiral. Kindly invite Vice Admiral Aurelio De Carolis, Commander-in-Chief of the Italian Navy Fleet, to take the floor for the welcoming address.
Thank you. Good morning, Minister Giovannini, Mr. Mancuso, Mr. Economo, Admiral Carlone, my old friend Nicola. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Representatives of European Union boss. I feel honored and pleased to speak in this opening session of the Mediterranean Coast Guard Functions Forum. I will start by bringing you greetings from the Chief of the Navy, Admiral Enrico Giovannini, who couldn't make it today because to the US, a working trip to the US. In the Italian, about our primary role in fulfilling the Coast Guard function. This is a key concept that we are bringing forward. Coast Guard function, it is not something that stays with Coast Guards, of course. It's a function, stays with the navies, and we are ready to contribute. Also because it derives from a historic role, which is the constabulary role that navies have traditionally played throughout history, together with the other fundamental roles that Navy have including sea control, power projection, and naval diplomacy. In the peculiar case of Italy, the Navy's engagement in the Coast Guard function is further enhanced, and I'm glad to say here that we deem it as a very important and committing role to us. And this is for a host of reasons, all connected with the historic and a strong maritime connotation of our country, not only in terms of geography, but also for the strategic and economic relevance of many activities related to the seas, among them maritime trades, fishing, tourism, scientific research, shipbuilding, and many others. In this perspective, our national organization enjoys a great connotation. The fact that the Italian Coast Guard is operated by a corps that belongs to the Navy. I mean, we are part of the same service. Our officers are trained in the same naval academy, and the same for our petty officers and personnel. In my current capacity as fleet commander, I may say that we experience on a daily basis the full complementarity, as we always define it, between the fleet and the Coast Guard. In particular, we, the fleet, operate across the entire maritime space with specific focus on the green and blue waters. This in a coherent and effective continuity with the Coast Guard, which, in accordance to our domestic laws, focuses its activities on the territorial waters, ports, shores, but has overall responsibility for search and rescue in the assigned area of responsibility, including the high seas. I also wish to add that in the complex and highly dynamic maritime environment in which we live, and I mean, it's enough to turn on the television or browse the internet to find out how critical this particular moment is, the exploitation of the seabed is playing a rising and critical role, both for the resources contained therein and for hosting underwater cables and infrastructure for the oil and gas industry, mainly pipelines. In this field, navies have the capacity and capabilities to play the preeminent role of primary actors, thanks to the availability of assets that can operate above the surface as well as underwater, including ships, submarines, hydrographic vessels, aircraft, helicopters, unmanned vehicles, coastal radar stations, and satellites for both communications and Earth observation. And let me say, it is what we are doing in these days, what we have. We are engaged in the maritime vigilance activities always, because this is part of the duties and the responsibilities that the Chief of the Navy has. But you may imagine that in these days, we are significantly reinforcing our efforts. In this slide, the theme chosen for this annual conference seems to be very well tailored, since it addresses the new challenges in the Mediterranean Sea among blue economy, ecological transition, and Coast Guard functions. As a matter of fact, several issues concerning the maritime domain may impact on regional and global stability and prosperity. The territorialization of the seas and illicit activities by non-state actors are some of them, which impact on the exploitation of the marine resources, as well as on the use of the oceans, either to maneuver the fleets or to freely access the marine economic routes. All these activities are essential for maritime spatial planning, for naval training, for the generation of the required defense and deterrence effects, and for the conduct of surveillance and vigilance activities that are essential to fight illegality and prevent crisis, also through capacity building. Similarly, it is important the environmental aspect, whereby we deem it as fundamental to conserve, preserve, and sustainably use the seas, protecting the marine biodiversity in order to safeguard the Earth and protect her from climate change. In this complex and dynamic scenario, interoperability at seas and unity of intent represent enabling factors in favor of the entire maritime community, daily committed to a continuous adapting endeavor that meet the requirements of such a rapidly evolving operating environment. In concluding, I take this chance to highlight the importance that the international community take action to cover the existing regulation gaps for a fair and effective governance of the seas. The fight against illicit, unreported and unregulated fishing, what is known as IUU, and the promotion of sustainable fishing, for instance, is a valuable example. My final words are a wish, which I address to all of you, for 2 proficient, pleasant, and happy working days in this marvelous city that is Naples, one of the most beautiful places in the world. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
And now I kindly invite Professor Enrico Giovannini, Italian Minister of Sustainable Infrastructure and Mobility. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here and address a so important group of distinguished experts, excellencies, and those who represent the institutions that around the Mediterranean Sea, but well beyond, really cover a fundamental function of the today's world. The topic, the title that you have chosen for this conference, the new challenges in the Mediterranean Sea among the blue economy, ecological transition, and Coast Guard functions, clearly identifies the most pressing and important issues that governments, other institutions, and even the private sector have to face to protect our seas around the world, our oceans, in terms of reducing pollution, in fighting climate change, and so on and so forth, but also the fundamental role that the Coast Guards play in ensuring safety for people. Before taking this position 19 months ago, I had only the possibility to benefit from Coast Guard because they rescued me while sailing around Sicily with my son. And I had already the opportunity to experiment how important the Coast Guards are. But since I took this position, I have to say, I fall in love with this incredible group of women and men who spend their time, their days and nights, really, from time to time we exchange messages with Admiral Carlone about rescue operations in the Mediterranean Sea. I don't want to be long because it's important that you start exchanging your experiences, your best practices, and so on. But let me just flag 3 points very quickly. The first one is that in these 19 months, the Italian government, that, as you know, is close to the end, elections took place last week, so a new government will enter into action in a few weeks. During these 19 months, we have taken very seriously the role of maritime transports, the role of ports, the role of the entire world that operates on the seas. We have decided to strengthen, from an administrative point of view, the role of the Italian Coast Guard, attributing to the Coast Guard the role of a single window authority in the context of European rules, in order to be sure that the information that is needed to operate is shared, and we allocated 168 million euros to this effort in order to be sure that beside administrative decisions, money is available to implement the systems. We have also financed the possibility of having more modern and technologically state-of-art ships and vessels. We have changed also the rules, the administrative rules that went back to 1933, a little bit too much time indeed. The administrative rules were updated to make the Corp more efficient, more up-to-date from many points of view. We have invested also in infrastructures over the next 10 years in order to have also the physical infrastructures modern and efficient within the huge investment that we have made on our ports, about 5 billion over the next few years, beside the administrative changes to reinforce our port authorities and so on and so forth. So this is what we have done, and what these kind of actions just demonstrate is the attention that we paid to the role of Coast Guard, in cooperation, of course, with the Navy and all the other authorities that operate over on the sea, but also in our ports. The second point I would like to make is about the ecological transition. I changed even the name of our ministry from infrastructure and transport into sustainable infrastructures and mobility, because we wanted to walk the talk, as is being said in English, beside the announcements, beside the signature of important agreements at world level, at international level, and at European level. We decided really to change the course of the direction towards ecological transition for our ports, our fleets, and in general for our country. Was not easy. It's not going to be easy because we have not finished the work, of course. But I hope that the investments made, the regulation changed, and also the push that is coming from the European Union and European Commission in this direction will speed up our direction, our journey towards ecological transition, also for Coast Guard and other port authorities and everything that is around this world. The third point I would like to make is the role of the Coast Guard in saving lives. I know that this is a fundamental role of Coast Guards everywhere, but we also know that the Mediterranean Sea is a place where ensuring the rescue of people, migrants, and so on is a political challenge, is a technical challenge, is an operational challenge. From this point of view, let me say that I'm absolutely in line with what Pope Francis even recently said, that lives have to be saved, period. And this is why I really recognize the incredible work done by the Italian Coast Guard in cooperation with other institutions. And I hope that the best practices that will be shared during these days will address also this very fundamental role of Coast Guards, because Minister Mario Draghi several times has underlined the need for a European approach, a wide European approach, also in terms of establishing and strengthening the cooperation with other countries that are in the Mediterranean Sea. I really hope that in the near future these issues can be addressed more effectively, because migration is not going to disappear. Therefore, my plea, my request, my really last remark is to have our countries able to face this huge challenge, and Coast Guard and Navy and all the institutions that work in this world of beauty, of fantastic place where we live, will be able to address also this issue in a more effective way. This is my last time where I have the opportunity to speak in public, I think, about these topics. Let me say that I really enjoyed very much this incredible time, and I hope that the efforts that were made will be continued, because there is a long way to go, and as we say in Italian, buon vento, fair winds to everybody. Thank you.
I kindly invite Mr. Paolo Mancuso, Consigliere for the Sea and Environment Policies of the Municipality of Naples, to take the floor for the welcoming address on behalf of the Mayor of Naples.
Thank you for the invitation. I have been asked from the Mayor of Naples, Gaetano Manfredi, to bring to all of you is a warm welcome to be here and to discuss about a main question that we as a town that is a large moment of crisis, just for the question of environment. And I think that our sea is a resource, a big resource, can be a great resource for our problems. But there are some conditions for this. Our sea must be safe, because if sea is safe, if the sea is a place of development, of peace, transports, we have a chance to maintain the environment as also to when I think that the main question for the environment is to come back to years that we have lost. But for this, we have the necessity to go very far from the point where we have arrived. Very far from this point where we arrived here now. I beg your pardon for my English is just rusty. My experience in Europe is so far from this moment. But I want to say to all of you that the problem we have as our towns is to guarantee peace and development. And development is the condition for our environment, because we have to have a great effort to have the possibility, the chance to maintain and to gain some new moment, some new chance. And Naples is so happy to have you in this moment, in this town, and in just a moment we have so need of guarantee that our sea will be safe for peace and for our health. And in this field we have the necessity to count on the corp of Capitani report. And this mission now in your meeting is the demonstration that Capitani to Italy, and we are grateful to Ammiraglio Della, to Ammiraglio Carlone, to Comandante Carlone. We are so grateful to have chosen Naples for this moment, for this meeting, and in the name of Gaetano Manfredi, I give to all of you the most warm welcome and the address to have good work for your job. Thank you very much.
I kindly invite Mr. Christophe Economou, on behalf of the European Commission General Directorate for Maritime Affairs and Fisheries, to take the floor for the welcoming address.
So, Vice Admirals and high representatives from Coast Guard functions, authorities from around Europe, and dear colleagues from the three agencies who are the most important in helping you, delivering your duties. And of course, I have also to salute the minister who left, but his wise words stay with this room. I'm very pleased to be here. I have to say that the European Commission is very pleased. I'm not talking only on behalf of DG Mare, but from all the colleagues in the European Commission in Brussels to see this gathering happening again. So we had an interruption of 2 years, and for reasons that were explained by the Vice Admiral Carlone. But again, thanks to the Italian persistence, and also because we, from the Commission side, really insisted, I have to say, in keeping this forum alive, we are here again today in Naples. And of course, we thank for the hospitality, the mayor and his representative, and for the welcoming words. So I have to say also that I'm very impressed with the numbers that you managed to bring back all these people, all the authorities from the Mediterranean, the north, the south, the east, the west. So we are all here. We can exchange again on those famous best practices around the themes that you highlighted today. And I think you merged very well the key subjects. I think people forget very often they link Coast Guards as something which has to do with ships or with people that have to be rescued, of course, but they forget that for all aspects of their lives, for the economy that comes from the sea, and that was highlighted by all of you, for all the activities that are around the sea that they need, and they don't even think about the Coast Guards and all the functions around those bodies play a key role in their lives. People discover all of a sudden these challenges when something happens, like in the Baltic Sea, that there are pipelines that really bring really necessary goods to home, but somebody needs to protect those pipelines. And who are these people? Again, these are the Coast Guards and the services that appear only when we need them, and otherwise they function silently to protect the citizens, to protect the economy, to protect all what we are here to discuss today. Then the other subject that you highlight, the ecology, climate change, definitely is something which brings a lot of worries, a lot of, I think, scenario that we all may need to face in the future, and you need to develop also solutions and try to think about how to mitigate. Now, we also have international instability. We have wars happening in our borders, and with this, the maritime aspect is always linked. Let's not talk about hybrid threats. Let's not talk about cyber threats. These are all things that you need to discuss to see how you better exchange. I also refer to the protection of the critical infrastructure. I think these are big, and this is how also we have to link it to the work you are doing. Now, the Mediterranean Coast Guard Functions Forum is there to learn from each other, to provide the opportunity for discussions, but also it's needed, particularly in this area, because there is quite a lot of room to learn from each other, because there are different developments coming from the different sides of the Mediterranean, and certainly this is why I think our agencies also are very critical in helping with key projects or bilateral projects even that you develop between yourselves. Let me say also, in the bigger political context, we had last year in February 21 the second UFM Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Blue Economy. This is the Union for the Mediterranean, regrouping 42 member countries. And in this declaration, there is clear references to maritime safety and security for blue economy activities. So the countries around the Mediterranean, they really recognize the need to link the development of sustainable blue economy to to safety and security. And this is also something that I think you are all looking at today in order to make it happen. Now, there are, I think, the declaration invites even the forum, it's recognized in the ministerial declaration, to develop training activities and further facilitate exchange of information, expertise, technical assistance, and best practices. So this is what you're doing today. In some way, you implement this ministerial declaration. It's very important for us from the Commission side as well. So this is why we really believe in your work. Now, another element that I would like to bring to your attention, and comes from the political side as well, is that we are working currently in the European Commission together with the External Action Service to update the EU Maritime Security Strategy. This is something that is announced already in the Commission Work Program for 2023. And you know that there is a long action plan that is accompanying this strategy. And there we have consulted stakeholders. We are now in the phases of preparing it. I have to tell you that from the public consultation that we ran in the previous months, the Mediterranean Sea came up as an area where we need to put more attention. For the reasons that were explained probably also by your minister, but also by you, Vice Admirals, I think we will have to put attention to that, together with all the other challenges, of course, that I mentioned, from hybrid to ecological, etc. Now, I have to salute again the three agencies, because they are all in the room, but also in the work ahead is really very, very important. And I'm very happy that they are represented here. We are working with them very closely on the Commission side, but I know that you are also benefit from their services in your daily life as well. Now, I would like also to pass on a message from the colleagues in DG Move, because they are not here. And you know, I said from the beginning, I'm really conveying the messages from the side of the Commission. So they wanted to highlight one point that is on your agenda, the Mediterranean strategy for prevention of preparedness and response to marine pollution from ships, that it's presented by REMPEC today. So we would like to support, full support on the suggested initiatives, in particular for more cooperation and joint exercises in the framework of Menela's network of law enforcement officials, and therefore to prevent more effectively pollution incidents. So that comes directly from the pen of DG Move, and I convey that. So again, I have to conclude here to thank again our hosts, the Italian Coast Guard, the Italian Navy, and the mayor of the city of Naples. And I hope we will have definitely a very good exchange for today and tomorrow. And all the best to those who will continue. One last word, that DG Mare, the Commission, will continue to support this forum. The fund that we run, the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, has among its objectives to promote the cooperation among coast guards, and this is what we are doing. So we will continue, and I hope you will continue with the next chair. Thank you very much.
Dear guests, I kindly invite you all for the family photo that will take place close to the main stairs on my right. After the family photo, you are all invited for a coffee break to the upper floor. The first panel will start at 10 o'clock. I repeat, 10 o'clock here. Thank you so much. Sorry. 10